Who eh, who has a public trial twice?
I just really love Ruby Dixon.
He will destroy him.
Has she never seen Shrek?
He threatened his Claudia. His Claudia
We need to prepare for the end of the world.
traipse naked through the city. With the shame bell. Shame, shame, shame.
Shame. Shame. Just so everybody knows, I am not awake yet at all. I rolled out of bed about 5 minutes, 10 minutes ago.
So I was going to ask how you were this morning, but I guess I don't need to because you're not a morning yet.
I'm not a morning.
Like haven't had a morning yet.
Okay. I was like, I'm not a morning. I know I'm not a morning. I am a person.
You are.
I mean, so far it's going great. My allergies are kind of kicking my butt, which is probably why I was sleeping still.
Yeah.
Cause to be honest, I did wake up at like 6 and then I went back to bed. And my allergies have been kicking my booty, which kind of blows. And then I guess the only good part of this morning is I got coffee. So now I have coffee in my beautiful mug that Ariel bought me. How are you with your blue water?
You know, how am I? I'm going to tell you how I am. I am very frustrated.
Uh-oh.
I think it was pretty rude. That was rude. I think it was pretty rude.
That was pretty fucking
Fucking
rude.
rude. That whoever was in charge did not decide to have season 2 of the Karen Reed trial during the summer. Because season 1 of the Karen Reed trial was during the summer. And that allowed me, as someone who works just lighter hours over the summer, to come home in the afternoons and watch the afternoon trial. And yeah, I'd have to catch up on the mornings, but I could watch the juicy stuff from the afternoon. This
My,
having it in April and May shit, it doesn't work for me.
my favorite thing is that you're calling it seasons.
Well, these people are nuts. And who does this? Who has a public trial twice? But so it kind of is a season. But for real, I got to watch the Johnny Depp stuff over a summer.
Mm-hmm.
If they're going to air publicly trials, they need to save them for summertime, for when we are able to binge these things.
So let's just apparently tell the law that that's what they should do
If
and
we're
tell
telling
the
the
court
law things,
system.
how about we tell the court systems to drop this because this is ridiculous?
That's like we should drop the Luigi Mangione, but that's besides the point.
This week, we came back to Ruby Dixon land. And though the Ice Planet Barbarian journey is amazing and we love it, I'm waiting for more books to come out, and Crystal's still towards the end. So we'll still hop on that train quite a bit, but we needed to find another Ruby Dixon lane for us. And so this week we read Fire in His Blood by Ruby Dixon, and it is a dragon romance. And I will say, if you are from the Ice Planet Barbarian world and have made it to Ice Home, this is adjacent because it's the same. It's not connected at all, but it's adjacent because it is the same breed. It's the same technical dragons that one of our Ice Home members is. He's a Draconi, and these are Draconi. So, yeah.
I just really love Ruby Dixon.
Yeah.
I ever get the chance to meet this woman in person, I just want to hug her, consensually hug her, but
Essentially.
be like, thank you for giving me barbarians and dragons and everything.
I'm going to say up front that I'm not sure if it was because the dragons were brought to Earth, but I felt that there was a lack of world building in this book comparatively. And maybe we just have to keep reading to get more. And I'm fine with that on a level, but as one whole book, it was missing a lot of world building pieces to it to create a whole world for me.
Which is funny considering how much world building is in all the other books.
Right.
So
But that's why
maybe.
I don't know if it was like taken for granted because it was like an earthbound, but I don't know.
I don't know. Tell me about it,
Anyways,
baby.
yes. So this book takes place in 2023, which is 7 years after what they call the Rift. We don't have a ton of information on the Rift, but it's basically when things changed for the planet. Our book opens with Claudia, and she is in a jail cell. This is not her first time in a jail cell, but seems to be one of the better makeshift jails she's been in. She doesn't think that that bodes well for her. She thinks that that might be a problem. She's been in this cell for almost 2 weeks now. And the way some of the guards whisper and stare at her, things are not going to go well for her. She's not feeling great about this situation. And clearly something is happening that particular day because she tries to ask a guard what's going on, what's the agenda for today, but he doesn't tell her much. He just asks if she slept through the dragon attack the night before. Apparently, dragons attack like clockwork. The golden ones usually attack once every 3 days in the morning, just before noon, and the red, smaller ones attack once a day for a week and then nothing for 3 weeks after. But none of them, to her knowledge, attack at night, except one did last night. So this is strange. The guard opens Claudia's door and leads her out through a long, dark corridor. They're joined by another guard. As they walk, the new guard says that the mayor is waiting for her. She's like, oh, yippee. If the mayor is looking over her trial, she's screwed. She's led through the building, which she realizes is the remains of an old shopping mall from prior to the rift. She knows that since the rift, it's been about survival ever since. She's there in jail because she went outside of their barriers to scavenge, and that is not allowed. But they're just trying to survive.
That would be me. Let's be honest.
Honestly, I figured it'd be more of a Sasha.
Yeah. I don't know.
You're like, I don't need to go scavenge. I can just do what I want here.
Um, well, I guess it would depend. I think it would just depend on my mood for the day. That's the thing.
I feel like I would go out and scavenge because I'd be like, get away from people and
But see, there's that. And
mm,
I don't like people, but at the same time, I'm also lazy. So like I think it would literally just depend on the day
yeah.
and my mood that day. Right now, nah.
Nah, bro.
Nah, bro. I'd be like, Ariel, can you go scavenge for me? Thanks, love you, bye.
Yeah, you'd be Amy today.
Yeah.
They lead her into a big room with a lot of windows. She does not like the whole window thing, even if it worked out that it was a red dragon the night before and they could be safe now for a few days. It doesn't add up for her that one attacked at night. And she doesn't think windows are safe. She prefers an enclosed, surrounded by cement. No windows for her, thank you.
And none for Gretchen
Somewhere,
Wieners.
yeah, and none for Gretchen Wieners. Somewhere away from the fiery chaos that rains down. There's a short, fat, older man sitting at a desk who we come to find out is the mayor. He asks Claudia if she knows of her crimes. When she does not give him the answer he was looking for, he reads out trespassing, theft, black marketeering, and attempting to evade the law and asks how she pleads. Claudia says that she doesn't think it's fair to put someone in jail for stealing something from a place no one lives anymore. And the mayor says it's not safe to go beyond the barriers. She knows the rules. She argues that they need to eat. She took the chance. And he tells her, well, they just don't treat crimes the way they did before, in the before times. He says the penalty for the crime that she's facing is exile, which to her is synonymous with death. She's worried about what will happen to her little sister Amy and her best friend Sasha without her because she's the protector. She's the scavenger of the bunch. She's the tough one who goes out and gets what they needs. She begs the mayor not to exile her and explains that people rely on her. He says, rules are rules. One of the guards steps in, interjecting that she's young, fit, a good age, strong. Maybe she could be useful for the experiment, as bait. The mayor frowns and says that he gave them 5 already. The guard says that those 5 are gone. And then a large shadow passes over the windows and a roar is heard through the air. And then the dragon alarm blares. Guards grab the mayor, guards grab Claudia. They all scramble away from the windows as the building shakes and another roar sounds. They bring them into a safe shelter room, and one of the guards says that it's a big gold one. The mayor is frustrated, saying he thought they followed patterns. The guard says they do, but the mayor says this is the second attack in 24 hours, which honestly, we never got fully explained of what happened with that. But he turns to the guard and asks if the last experiment that worked was with a gold, and the guard says yes. The mayor looks at Claudia and says the guard can have her. So once the skies are silent and they can't smell the fire anymore, the guards lead Claudia away from the direction of the mayor's office. They lead her out of the mall, down a metal-covered tunnel toward the edge of the barrier. At the outpost building, they hand her a dress to change into. She's wearing a t-shirt and jeans, so she doesn't understand why she needs to put on a dress. Sure, she looks a little ratty, but what's the problem? The guard says that she needs to clean herself up and leads her to a metal bathtub. She's kind of odd for a moment because plumbing doesn't really work in most places, so this is kind of a crazy luxury. She has a bad feeling about it, what it means, because if you don't scavenge for food, the only way to get it is by whoring yourself out to the militia or the guards. The guard hands her soap and says to use a lot. She needs to wash off her smell. He's not answering any of her questions, saying she just needs to do what she's told, not ask questions, just clean up, get dressed. They'll explain later.
And I would be like, absolutely not. Give
Hmm.
me everything now, please. I wouldn't shut the fuck up.
Right?
Maybe that would cause them to use me as bait then.
They were going to use her
Yeah.
anyways.
I know, but I'm just saying, I think that would push it even further
Yeah.
if I wouldn't stop
You probably wouldn't
talking.
be used as bait. You'd probably just be put in exile.
They'd be shut
Bye.
the
Yeah.
fuck up.
Claudia bathes and gets dressed, and then she's led with 6 armed guards through the barrier wall that surrounds their base. Anywhere outside the bases are exiled because they're not habitable. They're not safe, so you have to stay at the base that you're near, and it's very hard to get to another one. They head out to the eerily quiet scavenge lands, and they eventually stop at an abandoned skyscraper and enter the building with broken glass everywhere. They lead her up the stairs to the top floor where all the windows have been busted out, the wind whipping through. The guard leading them says that this is a good spot. There are these weird poles sticking through the floor, probably from damage and stuff, and they use one of them to secure her to it. And they put a manacle around her foot. She doesn't understand what's going on, but it's clear they want her to be some sort of dragon bait, and she starts sobbing. And they put up these red flags because apparently red is bait for dragons. So that's why they were excited when she was bathing, that they realized she had red hair because it had been so dirty before they didn't know what color her hair was. Then the guard in charge rips her dress off her and uncuffs her hands, leaving her ankle cuffed, saying he's sorry, and then he goes to leave. She's begging, asking why. And on his way out, he says that there's a rumor at another base. A dragon found a human woman and she tamed it. And now that tamed dragon defends their base. So it's better for them to take a chance on her being able to tame a dragon for their base because she was dead being exiled anyways. Claudius says that that is insane. How is she supposed to tame a dragon? He says, figure it out, because if not, they're all doomed. And he leaves, and she realizes that this is much worse than being exiled.
Sorry.
And he leaves. Oh,
I'm so sorry. So the reason I'm laughing is because my brain just went to how to train a dragon. And I was like, well, you can ask Hiccup how he did it. Sorry.
so the guard leaves. She spends the next few hours trying to get her foot out of the manacle with no luck. And then a shadow passes over the building, over and over, seeming to circle the building, the shadow getting larger. Claudia tries to stay as still as humanly possible. Maybe the dragon won't see her.
I think that's dinosaurs.
Yeah, dinosaurs have poor, horrible eyesight, but what if
Mostly
dragons
the
do too?
T-Rexes. I don't know. It's a good question. I could also insert myself into Fourth Wing and ask them. Actually, no, they don't know. Sorry. I need to stop. I'm so sorry. I'm killing Ariel today.
The golden dragon finally arrives. He crouches on the ledge of the building, and Claudia screams. So much for her plan not to be noticed. The
Not
dragon's
surprised.
big head scans the room, and his nostrils flare. Claudia tries to run, not even thinking. So she's yanked back by her foot chain. Like, and then the dragon is right over her. She can feel the hot breath. The dragon moves his head down her body, smelling her. But once it gets past her belly and gets down near her crotch, she just opens her eyes and says, no, pushing him away, which was instinctual. It shouldn't work, but the dragon does, in fact, stop. Claudia's like, oh shit, she fucked up now. And then she closes her eyes, waiting to be eaten. When it takes too long and nothing happens, she opens her eyes again, but the dragon is not there anymore. Instead, there's a man, a naked man, looking at his own hands as if he hasn't seen them before. And when he looks up at her, his eyes are the same as the dragon's. Claudia's wondering if she's dead and if she just doesn't realize it yet. And her brain is kind of tricking her in some weird way. This man is too beautiful to be real, anyways. Never mind, dragons turning into people. The dream man reaches for her, dragging his hand down her. And as his hand nears her breast, once again, she reaches out, bats him away. Too bad she doesn't have a spray bottle.
What is he, a cat now?
Yeah. Bad dragon. She says no. The man dragon snarls, showing his fangs, so that's fun. And he reaches for her again. So once again, she slaps his hand away and says, no. He growls and tries again, and she says, no, yet again, and just whispers not to kill her. He tries to mimic her no in confusion. And then we get his point of view. Kyle has found his mate. He doesn't understand how she could be frightened of him. She's his mate. He feels the need to claim her. Only a mate can banish the madness he had succumbed to. But being near her, breathing her in, is curbing it. Though every time she flinches and turns away, he can feel it coming back again, and he doesn't want to scare her or hurt her, though he tries to think how he can make her happy. He wonders, should he feed her? Show her that he can provide for her? That he's strong and fierce and can protect her from others. He changes back into a dragon and takes off. Claudia's left confused. But the dragon is gone and she's not eaten, so she feverishly tries to free her ankle once again. It's not working, and she's just left with her ankle bleeding and swollen until the giant dragon returns, comes up to her, opens his mouth, and a dead goat falls out of it. She's wondering if this is a warning of what her fate will be. And then the dragon just nudges the goat towards her with his snout, and she's like, what the fuck? Is he trying to feed her? Surely not. But he keeps pushing it towards her. She tries to say, no, thank you. But he keeps trying. She's jerking away, jerking on the cuff, which gets his attention. So he opens his giant mouth, takes the chain into it, and crunches. And then his tongue comes out and he licks her. Because, I mean, she's bleeding and whatnot. Licks her. And then he licks her all the way from her stomach to her neck. And then he turns towards the goat again, picks up with his mouth. And while he's turned, she takes this chance and tries to run. Because that's a good idea. She figures he's too big to fit in the stairwell, that she might have a chance. Except as she's running down the stairs, she hears the ear-splitting roar of rage. The building shakes, and then all of a sudden, the building is being slammed by the side.
Has she never seen Shrek?
And then there's a hole suddenly directly where she is in the stairwell. The stairs start crumbling.
I mean, it's a dragon.
You know, Claudia's only holding on by scraps of metal, and then claws are wrapped around her. Her legs dangling as the dragon flies her right back to the top of the open area of the building, you know, where they started, cradling her to his chest. Once he lands, sets her on the ground in front of him, and then he transforms back into a human. And he says, no.
No.
Claudia asks him if he speaks English. He attempts to repeat that sentence. She taps her chest and slowly says her name and tries to get him to do the same. He keeps saying Claudia until he finally gets it and tells her, Kyle. And he gets up close to her, sniffing her hair, rubbing his face against her neck, and she tells him no, that he's scary. He just starts to growl in his throat until he lets out a full roar. Then Kyle moves to the goat, and he uses his claws to rip it open. And he pulls out the liver because it's the tastiest part, you know, and he offers it to her.
I would be so traumatized.
He's so confused because he's trying to give her the best part. She's refusing. He doesn't know. Now he's worried. He's like, does she already have a mate? That's unacceptable. He doesn't understand why she's so terrified of him. So he transforms into his dragon form and then rips off a leg and puts it in front of her and just waits, just gonna bide out his time for her. Claudia is really hungry though, and the meat is very rare for them, but it's raw meat. She puts her big girl panties on. Well, not really because she's naked. And she takes a deep breath and she tries to talk to him that she'll try the meat, but it's raw. And she picks up a piece of broken glass and tries to skin the goat the best she can, and then tries to mimic fire to him and tries to get him to breathe fire on it. And he's tipping his head, trying to understand, and he snorts out a little snuff with his nostrils, and she uses that as an encouragement to get him to do more. And then he finally gets it and then blows a flame over the leg. And she tries it, and it's really good. And she rubs his nose and says, thank you. And then she eats as much as she can, and he eats the rest. And she starts to yawn, so he reaches to her with his paw, curls around her, pulls her against his chest, curls up on the floor, and cradles her until she falls asleep. Yeah.
Sorry, when you said raw, I just went, it's fucking raw. Gordon Ramsay.
Yeah. Well, we were watching Next Level Chef the other day, and one of the girls were a little behind, but one of the girls was saying that. She goes, I just don't want to have it's a raw moment with Gordon Ramsay on the TV.
Honestly, Yeah, that'd be kind of embarrassing.
Yeah. So as she falls asleep, like I said, he's a Draconi, and we know a little bit about the Draconi because we have read The Ice Home before. So we have a little bit of that knowledge. Did I think that this book did a good job setting that up? No, but we also have to remember that it's like unreliable narrator sort of deal because the dragons in this world are like manic and they don't have a lot of their memories and they don't actually know a lot. So I think as you read, hopefully we'll get more. But like I said, we know because we know about the Draconi. So he's trying to connect with her and talk with her in his mind while she's trying to sleep, but he can't because she's not a Draconi. And he finds that strange on one hand because he's connected to her and he feels that she's his mate. But on the other hand, he's kind of grateful because that means that she will not descend into the madness that the rift of this world has given his people. Claudia wakes up in the morning to a rigid Kyle on high alert. And then she hears the voices. The guards are back. The mayor sent them to figure out what happened to the building because, the dragon was attacking it. They had to rappel up half the building to get there, but they want to see any signs of the dragon or the girl. One makes a comment about how there won't be any signs left, and Kyle holds her close to him. It's clear he's going to protect her from these men, but that means he's going to have them as roasted marshmallows. She tries to call out to them, saying not to come up, that the dragon is angry, which doesn't really work. They just are coming anyways. And Kyle looks at her like, what the fuck? The guards continue to come up, not listening to her, and Kyle does a loud roar in warning. And then, just as the guards are coming onto the floor they're on, Kyle grips her good and then lifts them into the air. The guards shoot their guns at them, a bullet grazing Claudia's arm. Kyle lets out a terrible roar, and then he swoops down and crunches one of the guards. Claudia's stomach lurches and she yells out, please, no. So Kyle doesn't go after the others. He just lifts back up in the air, getting further away. They fly for a little while until Claudia's stomach just does not think it can handle more, and she pats Kyle's leg, pointing to an abandoned building nearby, saying, down, and he circles and descends. They land. This building is worse off than the last, but at least she's not in the air anymore. Claudia tries to soothe him, petting his snout, saying they're safe. Claudia's safe. Kyle's safe. And he slowly starts to calm and then nuzzles at her neck. He tries to lick her arm that's bleeding, and she says they need water, not his, like, germs.
Not his germs.
She mimics to him, trying to get him to change into his human form so he understands because she thinks she can communicate better with him in his human form. Claudia explores the new building and thankfully finds one of the bathrooms where the sink mostly works. So she washes up a bit, so happy to find water. Kyle tries to help her. He cleans her wound and then kisses it, which somehow is arousing for her. It doesn't help that he's been sporting a hard on this whole time, and apparently he then smells her arousal because his eyes flash and his nostrils flare, and he has this growl in his throat, and he pushes her up against the counter, rubbing his dick all over her. He just looks at her, says her name as a question, and Claudia is torn. She doesn't know what will happen if she gives in, and she shakes her head no, and he pushes away from her. She hides as long as she can in the bathroom before she eventually gives up and comes out. She reminds herself that he is a dragon, and dragons are the enemy. She needs to get back to her sister Amy. Amy is counting on her. 3 days go by, and Kyle makes sure that Claudia is fed and taken care of, and Claudia spends her time trying to teach him to communicate. He doesn't seem to try real hard or care that much about outwardly communicating. He just likes to say her name and attempt to snuggle her and sniff her hair. He doesn't probably find it important because he knows that once they mate, he'll be able to talk to him in his head, but she doesn't know that. Claudia is thinking she might be developing some sort of Stockholm syndrome because she's not fully hating his attention that he gives her. And she seems more and more turned on by him the more It happens. Things are nice and quiet in the new building until a shadow passes by and a dragon roar sounds. Kyle stiffens, and suddenly Claudia is grabbed from around the waist and snatched into the air. She watches as Kyle transforms and flings himself into the sky to follow. He's screaming fury at them. Both dragons land on the ground, screaming at each other on a ruined street. The new dragon gripping Claudia tightly. The two dragons face off and declare battle. The new dragon sets Claudia down so that they can have their duel. Once she's down, Kyle lunges. And it's not long before he's showing just how serious he is, and the new dragon is looking to leave the fight. But Kyle is not going to let him after he threatened his Claudia. His Claudia! Kyle rips out the new dragon's throat. Claudia screams, and when Kyle turns to her, she steps back, and Kyle is angry. Angry that she's so scared. Angry that there's so much darkness in his mind because of all of it. And the fact that he hasn't been able to claim her yet. And the fact that she wasn't safe because he wasn't able to claim her. And he needs to fix this. Kyle takes her and brings her back to the building that they were staying at. Once he turns back into his human form, she can see his wounds, and she pulls him into the bathroom to help him clean up. He very much likes her touching him, obviously, and he rubs himself all over her. She finds that she doesn't hate that, even though she's trying to. Kyle reaches down and starts to finger her, and she teaches him to kiss. And then he gets on his knees and he goes down on her. And then he brings her to the floor, and then he fucks her until he is so overwhelmed that his fangs come out and he needs to claim her. So he sinks his fangs into her neck as she comes. Claudia doesn't understand what's happening as the venom pours into her blood. So she's trying to push him off, but he pins her down and he's locked in. He knows the fire stings with the first claiming, but it's already started. Claudia starts to cry as she searches the ground for something, anything, and she grabs a huge chunk of concrete and slams it into the back of Kyle's skull, and down he goes.
You know, I feel like a little communication go a long way. It's honestly, it's also giving the, remember when we read The Bears? He bit her before
Yeah,
communicating. It's
yeah.
giving The Bears. Guys, ask for permission first.
Technically, he can't talk to her, but,
I know, but still.
he knows that once he does this, he can talk to her.
Yeah, she doesn't know that though,
No.
and things.
Yeah.
I would be upset.
Well, we'll see that she is very soon. She gets out from underneath him and heads for the emergency exit stairs. She's going to make a run for it while he's passed out. She somehow makes it back to the barricade and lets herself inside. It's dark outside, and thank goodness, because no one will see her traipse naked through the city, with the shame bell. Shame, shame, shame.
Shame, shame.
She makes her way to the bus where she was living with her sister and their friend Sasha. Amy's not there, though, which is strange. Amy doesn't leave. Sasha is there, and Claudia asks where Amy is. Sasha says that Amy went looking for Claudia, that she went to ask the militia what happened when they heard word that's who had taken her. Amy's been gone for 2 days. Claudia tells Sasha all about what happened to her, and then she gets some clothes and says she's going to go find Amy. Sasha tries to convince her to sleep first, but Claudia is too worried. She needs to find Amy. Claudia heads to the gates to see the guards, and they let her in. And when she's brought in front of the mayor again, everybody looks surprised to see her. But she demands to know where Amy is. The guard in charge just says that she's somewhere safe. They tell her to sit down and answer their questions, or they'll send both of them to the scavenged lands. She tells them that the dragon let her go. They want to know how she got away. To start at the beginning. They ask her all kinds of questions in between while she tells her story, but she's very careful with her answers because it's clear that they want to figure out how to defeat and take care of Kyle and the other dragons. She tries to give them as little information as possible. She keeps demanding to see her sister, but they just want more information. Kyle wakes up alone without Claudia and starts panicking. He's searching for her, and he sets off towards where he can feel her. Claudia suddenly can hear his voice in her mind. Insert our ice planet barbarians here because, we know about this.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Love that for us.
She's trying to figure out how she can hear him, but she's talking outside her head because this is new to her. And the guards are trying to figure out what's going on. And Kyle is trying to explain to her about mating and being linked, and he tells her he's coming for her. She reiterates that he's coming, panicked, and then the guards also repeat what she says, panicked, and they sound the dragon alarm. And then she has a gun placed next to her head as the guard says if he thinks she's his mate, she's going to be used as leverage. She tries to now use her inside voice. It's about time, lady, to tell Kyle about the gun and her sister, etc., etc. And the guard tells her to tell the dragon if he wants her unharmed, he needs to back off the city. Claudia says to give her Amy and she'll call him off. The guard pushes the gun against her temple and says, make him leave now. They say that they will give her to him if he leaves, but they do not have time to get her sister. Plus, having her sister there will stop him from coming back. They bring her up to the roof and hand her over to him. He grabs her and flies her away, and he brings her back to the same abandoned building. And when he places her down, he asks her to tell him why she's upset because he can feel it. She says she's just tired because he's not going to understand. He pulls her against his body and curls up so she can sleep. When she wakes, he nuzzles her, calls her his mate, and she asks him about that. And he tells her about sharing his fires with her, etc. And he tells her about his home and his people and how they learn to communicate with each other in their minds. And she wants to know why he doesn't go home then if he hates this world so much. But he explained that the sky opened up and ripped them away from their home. And ever since they've had this madness, they've existed in madness. But she keeps him anchored in sanity, and bonding to her prevents him from losing control. He tells her he lives for her happiness, that draconian males are utterly devoted to their mates. She accuses him of taking away her life and her choices just because he thinks she belongs to him. She has a
She's
sister.
got a point.
She has friends, and now she can't go back there. He can't just up and choose someone to be their mate and force it on them. The other person needs to want it too. Kyle only hears from this sentence that she's going to choose someone else over him. She's going to choose a different mate and asks where he is. He will destroy him. And he launches himself into the sky. Claudia realizes that it's not all technically his fault. Like there's no communication and this is all he knows and blah, blah, blah. She's just really frustrated because this is her life now and how things are going and she doesn't have any say in anything. When Kyle finally returns, he changes back into his two-legged form and he kisses Claudia. She asks if that means he's not mad anymore and he says, never mad. He sends her a mental image of them fucking, which turns her on, but she's scared to try that because the last time, So instead, she gets on her knees and sucks his dick. Because, after he tries to ask her what he can do to please her. She's still not ready to try anything more with him at the moment, even though he promises it won't feel like that again. So she asks him for a home. She says she needs a comfortable place, and he's excited at the thought of giving her a nest. So they go shopping. She's never been this far out, even trying to scavenge, and there's plenty of stuff to choose from because nobody goes this far. They even found a furniture store where the roof is mostly whole, and Kyle brings back furniture. She brings back a bed, a couch, a chair, all kinds of stuff back to their building. They choose that because that has running water, and she doesn't think she's going to find that again. They find a big box store that's not completely picked through, and she finds sheets and dishes and cleaning supplies. And Claudia's filthy by the time they're done, and she just wishes that she could find a place that she could take a bath. And Kyle knows a place. He says he'll take her, and he takes her to a lake. And Kyle changes to two legs and gets in with her, and she shows him how to soap up. And he gets very handsy, obviously, helping to wash her. And then he wants to taste her. And he does, bringing her to the shore and laying her down. Has a grand old time. That night, she has a horrible dream about her sister. And in the morning, she's just feeling awful, like she doesn't know what the right choice is. She just knows that her sister needs her help. Dragon sister. She's always been the only one to provide for her sister, which honestly, her sister's an adult. And this girl risks her life every day and goes into the scavenge land. And her friend Sasha whores herself out for food. And Amy just sits in the bus and doesn't go anywhere while everyone takes care of her.
She's a princess.
I find this just bleh.
Well, honestly, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe she should do shit.
Yeah. In a dystopian society, everyone needs to pitch in. Like, you're only as good as how you can provide. She's not providing any other things.
We've really been on a
Everyone needs to
dystopian
chip.
kick where now like we feel like we are masters at
Experts. Yeah.
knowing everything about dystopian societies.
I may or may not have a solar powered portable charger coming on Monday.
I mean, we need to prepare for the end of the world.
Yes. Just in case, yeah.
You never know.
You know. Plus, when the power goes out, it's very important. So a red dragon flies near them and it scares Claudia, but Kael assures her that the red dragon will pay her no mind because she can smell that they're a mated pair. The red dragons are the females, the golden dragons are the males. And that explains the whole cycle thing. They only attack the cities when they're in heat. And then their heat makes the males go crazy. It's a whole thing. But that makes Kyle think. So now he wants to bring her around other males in the area so that they know she's off limits and don't come to this area. She doesn't want to be carried in his claw, though, because that makes her nauseous. So she Jimmy rigs a sort of saddle on him so she can ride him. Just hilarious. And it's not in the way that they did it in Ice Planet Barbarians, which was kind of like a basket. It was more like Khaleesi style. So that was kind of cool.
I just think it's really funny.
They end up,
This is Shrek. It's the love of Donkey because Donkey.
oh, yeah, I was thinking Game of Thrones, but
Oh no. Yeah, Game of Thrones, but then like with the love of the dragon, you got Donkey loving a dragon.
yeah.
So, yeah.
Is she donkey?
I guess so.
No. So they end up finding one of his old friends that he recognizes named Doc. Doc is trying to hold on to reality. He's not fully descended into madness. Obviously, when he smells the ladies in heat, he is, but he's not fully too far gone yet. So Kyle thinks that they should find him a mate. Claudia doesn't think this is a good idea. She doesn't want to do that to someone in the city, but they do need to go back to the city to get her sister and her friend. Kyle explains that they won't be able to come back with them. Every male around will be able to smell them. They'll just become a target. They're unmated. It's not safe unless she thinks it's a good idea to give one of them to Doc. That would solve both problems. Claudia is like, She doesn't know what the right thing to do is, though, because on one hand, her life with her dragon is pretty good. And inside the gates at the base is not great, but people should have a choice. In the end, though, she weighs out that her sister in the hands of the militia and trapped with them, trying to be used as leverage for Claudia, that situation is much worse. So she needs to get her sister. She'll figure out the rest after. They make plans to go to the city the next day, and Kyle sends Doc away for a little while so he can pleasure his mate. He assures her that he doesn't have to bite her this time, and he fucks her from behind like the Draconi do. So he's happy about that. In the morning, they get Doc and head to the city. And Doc is supposed to be the distraction, but the smells of the city are too much of a distraction for him. And the madness takes him, and he starts fully attacking the city. I mean, it is still a distraction, just not the one they planned. Kyle and Claudia go to the bus and get Sasha, even though they're being shot at, so they're trying to be quick. But because they're being shot at one point, Sasha slips off the back and falls, and before Kyle can grab her, Doc catches her and takes off with her. Kyle tells Claudia that Sasha will be safe, that Doc will treat her well. They just need to focus on finding Amy. He tells her if Claudia really wants, he will go fight Doc for Sasha right now if that's what she wants. But he knows that she will be safe, and this will allow them to go get Amy. And so Claudia picks Amy. They get to the roof of the building of where she's being held, and they find her on top of it with the mayor holding a gun to her head. Kyle asks Claudia if he should just eat him. I mean,
Maybe.
Claudia says to just let her down. He refuses. So she slides down off the back and jumps off, which is probably not the best idea.
Let me at him.
Yeah. Claudia tells her to leave and he will let her sister go. Claudia says bullshit. She's not leaving until she gets her sister, and the dragon is not leaving until she does. The mayor says he will make her leave, and then he points the gun at Claudia and fires. So Kyle eats the mayor. Amy runs to Claudia. Kyle urges Claudia to get on his back. She says she doesn't think she can. He changes forms, pressing at her wound. Amy shouting that they need a doctor. Claudia passes out, and Amy shows Kyle to a doctor at a clinic. When Claudia wakes up, she's with Kyle in his human form, Amy, who's resting, and a doctor who's poking at her, but they're back in their building. Kyle took Amy and the doctor back with him. He says they screamed a lot, made a lot of noise. The doctor's name is Melina, and Kyle doesn't think she smells that bad, so she'll probably make a good mate for someone else. Apparently, he had launched himself through the clinic door with Claudia in his arms, him buck naked, screaming, "Doctor! Doctor!" And Melina had just passed out in fright. So he just grabbed her and Amy and just flew. And now it's a week later, and Claudia is not liking being a patient. She's done laying around. And she's also pretty irritated that Amy just doesn't seem to get the whole Kyle isn't a bad guy thing. She's been trying to get Claudia to escape with her. Claudia tells her she doesn't want to go anywhere, that she loves Kyle and he loves her, that this is a much better life than back in the city. She came to rescue her. Amy doesn't fully understand because he's not human. But Claudia, though she feels really odd about this because this is the first time she's put herself before Amy, says she
Weird.
wants
You
to
probably
stay
should have done
there,
it a lot more, a lot
right?
longer, many more times, guys.
Yeah, but she tells her she wants to stay with Kyle. Yeah, which flabbergasts Amy because Amy's used to, that too.
Amy's like, bitch, you usually give me what I want. What the fuck?
Right? And she's thinking in her mind about how much she misses him and being close to him because they've had all this company and she's been wounded and he's off flying around trying to find food right now when he must hear her thoughts because then all of a sudden he's back and he grabs Amy and flies off with her. Claudia's like, what the fuck? He mind links and tells her that he's bringing Amy and Melina to a nearby building that has a heavy stink to it to disguise their scents, but it'll allow him to have time with Claudia in private. Claudia doesn't actually think this is a bad idea. Maybe it's a good idea. Kyle hurries back. Claudia tells him that she loves him. He says he knows, but he's glad she's finally accepted that she's his. And he eats her out and then fucks her, and we get an epilogue of 1 month later. Melina is mostly back in the city now, though she goes back and forth, and Amy is staying with Claudia and Kyle. Though they have created her like a panic room and an extra space a few floors down so that they can be alone and for when they go off on rides, for when she's scared. Claudia tells Kyle that she's pregnant. And that's the end of our book. We have a little excerpt from Sasha, who's woken up with the dragon. So I'm assuming her book is next. And yeah, that's the book.
Solid.
Hmm.
Look at us. Ugh, I love Ruby Dixon. Sorry. So who was your favorite?
Um, so on one hand, I would probably say Kyle, but honestly, I think I'm going to say Melina. She didn't have a huge part, but she was just kind of cool with shit. She kind of rolled with it. And now she just kind of like goes back and forth and she's like, what ifs?
You know, I really liked Kyle.
Yeah.
Minus the whole, mating her thing without asking, because
Yeah,
we had that issue with the bears, okay? You just turned the lady
you
into a
know.
bear without asking. Though I guess it was a little different because at least in this one they can't communicate, and in the bears they were very much in human form for 90% of it, and he could have told her about the bear, but he didn't. I'm still not over the bear thing. How about your least favorite?
Amy.
Dude, same. Amy is useless.
Yeah,
Maybe she'll get better. Does Amy have a book? Probably.
I'm sure she does.
So Amy just needs to get her shit together. Alrighty. Amazon gives us a 4.1, Goodreads a 3.7. Where are you sitting, my love?
So I gave this 3.5 stars, and that is because I just felt that I needed more world building to create. This is the first book in this series, and it had the length that it could have done that. I mean, the first Ice Planet Barbarian book was less than that, and it was on a whole other planet, and I felt we had more of a world building. So if I didn't have that, maybe to directly compare to, but
Yeah, I understand. I feel similarly. Words can't apparently happen. I would say probably a 3.5 as well.
peppers.
Um, I don't know.
I'm going to say a disappointed jalapeno
Yeah, like
because
a
he could
limp
have
one.
used, yeah, he could have used all of his dragon features and
Hmm.
nothing was used.
And I would have loved that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I was kind of sad about that.
big fat sad.
Big fat sad.
I agree. I like a limpy jalapeno. Considering like the stuff that we usually get from the like others, it's
Mhm.
hard to compare works within an author, but we do it anyways.
We do what we want.
Yeah, survivability, I'd be fine.
I would also be fine.
Maybe.
I'd be fine.
I don't know. Me and post-apocalyptic is just not well, apparently. But I would have a great time, so there's that. Well,
Okay, the third one is not Amy.
maybe she kills
Oh,
Amy
the
off and
fourth one is
wait.
Amy.
Oh. Never mind. So, yeah. Guess what, guys? We have a new wheel and we have to spin it.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's so beautiful looking. It's so full.
I'll
And
know when it loads.
yeah.
There we go.
So
It is.
yes, it's beautiful. It looks lovely. And we're gonna spin it now. Are
It
you
has quite
ready?
a like a red and orangey shade to it. I'm surprised it doesn't have more like blue hues and purples and greens. It's more
Well,
very
you
red
know,
and orange hues.
I didn't choose the colors.
I know you didn't. I'm
Are you
just
ready?
surprised at that.
Are
Yeah,
you ready?
I'm ready.
Dixon by M. Monique. Now, here's the thing with this book. We wanted it on our last wheel,
Mm-hmm.
but it was taken off of Kindle Unlimited at the time. And this
Mm-hmm.
is a book that we have had on our back burner for a little bit. So
Because it was
now
a
we're,
request, yeah.
yeah, so now we're gonna finally do it. Yay! See, we do
Yes.
listen to people. Sometimes it just takes us a little bit of time to slot things in. So if there is a request you guys have done, unless we've outright said we're not doing it, it is somewhere in the ether right now,
Mm.
sitting on a list.
All right. Kingston by M. Monique. So yes, this is a re-release. It was taken off so they could redo it. I'm not sure if it just got kind of revamped or what, because I didn't read it the first time, but we'll find out. Rising above adversity has never been an issue for Kingston Wells. He's faced some difficult times and still finds the strength to stand strong. With a younger brother and grandmother to look after, the last thing on his mind was love. From the moment his eyes land on Tiffany, he's drawn to her in a way that can only be described as divine. Once it is settled into Kingston's heart that Tiffany was his future, going after her was just the beginning. Tiffany Summers is no stranger to men with strong personalities. Her brothers, Gray and Blue, taught her to be a fierce protector of her own heart. Locking eyes with Kingston shouldn't have been so soul-stirring, yet it was. Kingston doesn't give actual good guy vibes, prompting Tiffany to do anything she can to avoid him. Kingston's determination to have Tiffany is too powerful for her to ignore. Tiffany's decision to give him a chance could be the opening for her heart to be broken. Overall, these two have one thing in common: family over everything. When situations arise, will they find themselves fighting for each other, or will their loyalty to the motto have them turning their backs on each other and true love?
Yeah. So join us as we continue our days. I don't know, dude. I'm so tired.
Join us next week as we read our next book and make sure to keep reading.
And keep it smutty.
Everything'll be just fine. Everything'll be all right. All right. I needed a spoon.
It was dead silent, and then out of nowhere, you just started singing.
But he doesn't. What's the agenda for the day? Blair's guards grab the mayor. The mayor's frustrated, saying they're supposed to follow patterns. He thought they followed patterns because they're not inhabitable. Nope, they're not habitable, because that's a word. Claudia tries to, nope. Kyle, once she's down, Kyle, once she's down, Kyle lunges.
You want to
Like
say
Claudia.
his name different because you keep saying Kyle?
Sorry. I mean, close enough.